when I was a little kid, but it's by the grace of God that I'm here now. I'm 60 years old, and God has truly, truly blessed me and my family in life. And I would have never thought I would be standing here talking about prison ministry, a jail ministry, when there was a time when I was in this jail downtown about 50 years ago for doing things that little kids may do. Little boys, I look at this little boy here, and I was around his age and in and out of jails, but I didn't know the Lord at the time. But you know, the irony of all of this is that I'm here to talk to you about God's goodness and God's grace, and it certainly has been by the grace of God that I'm able to stand here. I've been through so much in life, and if you live long enough, and I'm sure these ladies here can attest to this, if you live long enough, there's going to be some things that happen in your life. I have been shot, 2 kids shot, but I'm standing here before you. And yeah, God is good. God is good. When I was here last Sunday, I talked about my mother who died a year and a half ago. And the irony of the situation is that when I did get shot, a lady was trying to shoot my mother. But I say, fortunately, I got in the way. I was actually being a dutiful son and trying to walk your mother outside and to give her some air. And, you know, this lady pulled a gun out at a Missouri reunion, by the way, in Chicago. Missouri reunion. And she was shooting at my mother, but fortunately, she shot me. Now, that was 30 years ago. And, you know, I can talk about the blessings in life. And, like this little kid here, he's a long way from 30. But the things that have happened in my life, 2 sons get shot at the same time. They both survive. And this one son loses his spleen, and he has to take penicillin the rest of his life. But he became a star athlete in the Chicagoland area. He got a scholarship to Syracuse University. That's how I got involved in prison ministry. That was more than 15 years ago. I wasn't saved at the time. I recall police coming to our home, and the first thing that they could say was, both of your sons have been shot. And I know we have mothers here. It's like, it's a parent's worst nightmare for someone to come to your house, knock on the door, and say, your sons have been shot. 11-year-old and 16-year-old at the time, both of them. And then, you know, you want to ask that question, what's their condition? Are they alive or well, alive or not? But you're afraid to do that. And so it came out, and it said the youngest one, Damien, who was 11, they rushed him to Children's Memorial Hospital in Chicago. Darius, they rushed him to a different hospital. And there was a reason for it, because Damien was the one that was most severely injured. That was the one that lost his spleen. He actually got shot through the back. The 11-year-old with a .45, it comes out a 1/4 inch beneath his heart. Now I get in my car. I'm driving over towards the lake in Chicago, and I understand Brother Philip is going to be going to Chicago sometime soon, and I'm sure you know about the lake and all. But anyway, I'm getting in my car, and I'm driving through the street lights. I'm driving up on the curb, and I'm saying, God, if you spare my son, I'll do anything for you. That was more than 15 years ago. I was not saved at the time, although I had been attending this church in Chicago, Apostolic Church of God. My son's life was spared. I recall I had been going to this church in Chicago, and there was a guy that I worked with at the airport. I worked for O'Hare Airport at the time. And this guy, Bill Smith, he says, next time Bishop Brazier, Apostolic Church of God, makes this altar call, don't you walk up there, you run up there. And my hesitance about, you know, adhering to this altar call or getting saved was that I thought that the next day I would probably sin, and not totally understanding what salvation is about, and a lot of us are probably like that. We're thinking that we have to be perfect. And I didn't think it was within me at that time to accept this altar call, because, you know, we have this propensity to sin. We're always going to have this propensity to sin, even after we get saved. I know that now, as long as we're in this flesh. But this brother says the next time that Bishop Brazier makes this altar call. And that's a huge church. It's a 20,000 member congregation on the south side of Chicago. And he says, don't you walk up there, you run up there. And then one of the things I wanted to do also, I wanted my mother to be there when I got baptized. And that was more than 15 years ago. My mother was right there with me. And Bishop Prision made this altar call. I got baptized. But I was involved in a political job at the airport, buying vehicles, police cars, snow equipment, and there was a lot of politics involved in it. And right after my son's lives was saved, and just bear with me on this, I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but it was something going on in the job, and I want to go to the pastor to complain about how I was treated on the job. I went to him, and then I realized that I didn't have anything to complain about. Both of my sons had been spared their lives. And before I even got into the complaining part about the political stuff that was going on the job, I told the pastor, or Bishop Brazier, that I wanted to give back. I wanted to get involved in prison ministry. I didn't know anything about the prison ministry at Apostolic Church of God on the south side of Chicago at the time, but you know, a lot of times people say, God told me to do this, God said this, I'm not going to go there, but it happened. My brother, how you doing, man? But that's what came out of my mouth. And for 10 years, I would drive our church van over to Cook County Jail. I would drive the ministers to Cook County Jail, and we had a budget. We would pick up $300 worth of food from Popeye's Chicken. We talked about that briefly yesterday. We would pick up food and take across the street to the jail at 26th in California. And, you know, we would feed the inmates. I was talking with Pastor Betts yesterday. When we would go to the jails, we would ask the inmates, are you all here for the bird or the word? You know, the chicken or the word. And in all honesty, they were there, they was really there for the bird because, you know, jail food, it's not like the food that we have out here. But, you know, if it's 100 or 200, it was usually about 100 people that would come to these services. I was the only non-minister. But I would be preparing the food. I would faithfully drive the van for 10 years. I would have the check, a $300 check to buy the Popeyes food, the chicken and all, and the guys, they welcomed that. But as I was talking with Pastor Betts yesterday, we always make this call to the brothers and the inmates there to give their life to the Lord. In most instances, they will not. And I was talking with Pastor Betts yesterday about, there was an instance in which I was at another church and this guy comes up to me and he said, you don't know me, do you? You don't remember me? I said, no, I didn't, because, you know, I meet a lot of people over the course of time. And this guy said that he was at the jail that we were ministering at, and he was there with his family, his wife and his kids, and he had turned his life around. And I say that to say, if you can get 1 out of 100 to, you know, receive the Lord, that certainly is a blessing. But this whole thing for me has been, it's a blessing and it's an irony that from a meager beginning here in Charleston, in this church, I will be involved in prison ministry. And even though I'm here in Charleston, I'm getting calls every day on my cell phone from, there's a 70-year-old mother in San Diego that has a son in Lancaster prison. And then she apologized, and she said, I know I may be robbing you, but I need some help. And I met this lady right before coming here from San Diego, and she reminded me so much of my mother. And as I said, my mother, she left us 1.5 years ago, and my brothers and even myself have been in and out of jail at some particular point. I graduated from there, but when I met with this lady, and it was like I was doing something for my mother when I told her that I would assist her with her son who's in Lancaster prison. And she said she has daughters and kids that does not, you know, sometimes when we have parents, we don't have time for them. And she said her kids didn't have time for her, but I made the time for her, and they called me while I'm out here. And I said, you know, when I get back, we'll get into that. But it's a blessing for me to do what I do, and I'm also a writer. I'm a writer for online news magazine in San Diego, and I do book reviews, and a lot of you all